Hi, guys, and welcome to your lesson on the memoir essay. I hope you guys learned lots from your last essay or your last lesson, and we're going to incorporate some of the things that we learned in the last lesson here when we talk about the memoir essay. So let's get started. So what you'll need for this particular lesson is that you'll need to have read something from your textbook. Maybe you have a particular memoir um, essay chapter in your textbook. If you are using the Little Seagull Handbook, it's similar to the narrative essay. So hopefully you would have read the narrative essay chapter, and it gives you some tips and tells you a little bit about what that essay is and what's about. What I'm going to go into in this class, or less, well, actually in this lesson, I'm actually going to go into the structure of it and some helpful tips that will help you get into it. Of course, you will need pen and paper for notes. You won't need On Writing Well since you don't need it for this class, but On Writing Well is a very great um, book if you want to learn more about writing and doing it really well. So here's what you need to know about memoir. The memoir actually comes from the same root word as memory. So if that tells you a little bit about your essay, then I don't know what will tell you about your essay. So that means that your essay is gonna revolve around a memory, something that you remember from your point of view. It seeks to answer a central theme or a question. So maybe the question can be something like, what happens when everything goes wrong? How does one deal when there's tragedy in life? Um, Thankfully for this class, you're given your essay. And if you are in my class during the semesters, fall and spring, more than likely, your central essay has to do with a memory or a lie or something that you remember one way but actually happened another way. And perhaps you learned it later on in a different way. It also seeks to try to unravel a deeper truth. So it's not about what happened, but what you learned from it. And of course, the one thing about memoir that people forget is that they've probably already told memoirs. They have ample opportunities to tell memoirs. If you don't believe me, then you're probably not on social media. If you have Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, or even take selfies, you have taken or have done a form of memoir where you give your opinion or give an insight into your life and why you think or do the things that you do. So, what exactly is in a memoir? What exactly makes a great memoir a great memoir? Well, it's not that much different than a regular essay, except that you're literally telling a story about you and your life. So you want to have a really interesting beginning. So you don't want to tell a story that says, so I woke up at 8 a.m. in the morning and I brushed my teeth and took a shower and got ready to go to school. You don't want to start a story like that because it's kind of boring. You want to start a story right where the action happens. So maybe this was the day that you found out that you won $1 million. You don't start with the idea of, I sent in this envelope to win $1 million. You start with the idea of being rushed by maybe Publishers Clearinghouse and you being confused, and all of a sudden there's a big check with your name on it and it's $1 million. That's where you start your story. You always start your story or your memoir with action. So you want to grab the reader's attention and you want to set the scene. So think of it like an opening of a movie. Think of your favorite movie and what are the things that they're doing in that movie to kind of get you, the viewer, into that world. So back to the example of the Publishers Clearinghouse and the check. Maybe you're at school, one can hope. Maybe you're at work and you want to set the scene. Maybe you work at a grocery store and you want to set the scene. What did it look like? How many people were there? Was it fluorescent lighting? Was it a regular Wednesday or Tuesday? Is it full of people who buy meat because there's a special on meat? Set the scene and get capture the reader into this opening of your memoir. In addition to setting the scene, you have to know that because you're telling a story, it has a plot. And that means that there's a beginning, middle, and end to your story. And you also want to make it vivid. Details are everything. Think of your five senses. What can you see, hear, taste, feel, and smell? Add those senses in there and make it come alive. So let's talk about structure and what a memoir structure actually is. So, this is something that if I were you, I would pause and actually take notes here because this is how you want to structure your essay. You know that it has an introduction, which means you set a scene. And we just finished talking about that. It grabs the reader. Then you want to talk about your complication. There is no story unless there's a complication. Describe the complication. Why is it a complication? Then you want to evaluate it. Well, if I do this or this, then this will happen. Then there's a resolution to the complication. You made a decision, and now you have to live with it. And then the conclusion, which is what makes a memoir, your thoughts, what you learned from the experience. I want you to notice that there are five things on this slide. And it doesn't mean that this is for each paragraph. It just means there's five sections of this essay. For example, the introduction can be one paragraph, but to describe the complication, to help the reader understand it, you can probably use three paragraphs to do the description. Maybe there's two paragraphs for the evaluation of the complication. These boxes here don't mean paragraphs, they mean sections. So when you're thinking about writing it and taking the lessons that we learned last time about the shitty first drafts, this is how you want to approach your essay. Maybe you're writing the introduction today, and maybe you're really wanting to write about the evolution or the evaluation, I'm sorry, of the complication. Then you write the evaluation of the complication the next day, and maybe that takes a couple of paragraphs. And so each day you write a little bit. And at the end of maybe 5 days, you put it all together and you look at what you have. That is your first draft. That is the draft that no one sees but you. From there, you work to make it better. What do you need? What do you not need? Can you take things out? Do you need to move things around? Then you can start on your second draft. So let's talk about how we're going to get started here. To get started, step one, you need to find out what you already know about what you're going to write. And that is actually easier said than done sometimes. So you want to think about if you're going to talk about an area. Let's say we're going back to our example of the publisher's clearinghouse and you are at the grocery store. Maybe you want to map out the scene. Where's the milk? Where's the bread? Where was everything? Where did that crew with the big cameras and the balloons and the flowers come as they were rushing towards you with the big check? Maybe you want to record your story. And this is something that I definitely suggest you do. Everyone who has a cell phone or a smartphone has a recorder on it. Go lock yourself in your car or lock yourself in a closet and tell the story to yourself first. Play it back. What does it sound like? What was interesting? What wasn't interesting? Where did the story come alive? Where did it slow down? Where it slows down and where it comes alive is what the reader is going to also notice. So actually telling it to yourself helps you write it down later on. And of course, using storyboards or role playing can actually be helpful to get into the memoir essay. Then, step two is organizing and drafting. And we talked about this earlier. with the 5 sections of the essay. So you want to write the whole story, and really, when you're working on your first draft, because it's the thing that only you're going to watch, and the only thing that you're going to see, you're the only one that's going to see this draft. Go ahead and write everything you need. It doesn't need to be perfect. Please don't think that the first thing you write about this memoir is going to be perfect. It's actually going to be awful. Embrace the awfulness because from awful comes good. And so you write everything down and try to understand what you're writing. It's going to make everything after that so much better. And then step 3, you're going to choose the appropriate style. So think about, is this a formal essay or an informal essay? What's the tone? Are you taking more of a reporter type tone, just the facts, or are you telling a story? I can tell you only one of those is actually useful for a memoir essay. Think about the memoir essay that you read in the module. And of course, shitty first drafts. Guess what, guys? That's actually a memoir essay. So if you want to go back to the previous module where you have a copy of that, I would go ahead and read that again and see what the writer did and what makes that a memoir. So we're at the end of the lesson. So what did you guys learn? You understood that memoir essays are about you. And when you're writing this wonderful memoir essay, think about this as a sliver of time. If you're going to tell me about the Publishers Clearinghouse win of a lifetime, you're not going to tell me about the first day of your life when you were born. You're not going to tell me about when your parents met. You're not going to tell me about when you met your little baby brother or sister or your significant other. It doesn't go with the story. So think about telling your story as a sliver. We don't need to know everything. We don't need the whole cake. We just need a part of a cake, just a taste. So you also learn that memoir comes in all forms, whether it's Twitter or Snapchat or Instagram. You've been doing memoir essays for a very long time, just in another form. And of course, you learned the first steps or the all the steps you need to do this wonderful essay. I am looking so forward to reading your essays. I hope that this was helpful. Let me know if you need anything else. Of course, my email is in the syllabus. And of course, you can always email me through D2L. Bye, guys.